Jasper, my friend, I wanted to let you know that I read your ebook. It's fantastic. Like, almost my first thoughts, you give too much value.
Hi, Jasper Basson here. I just wanted to remind you about the Daily Entrepreneur Tips series. It's a business growth series for entrepreneurs and contains financial information and also information to grow you as a person and your business, because we will never grow our business any higher than we grow ourselves. So click on the link below and I will send you daily information to grow you as a person and your business, and it's for 365 days of the year.
I'm reading right now. It's the Almanac of Naval Ravikant. It's a really good book.
Right.
Yeah. You know, Jonathan Livingston Seagull, one of my favorite books of all time. It's about a seagull that really transcends his limits. And there's a great phrase from that, you know, to go to where our goals and our dreams lie, we must be able to transcend the limits of the flock. So that's a great point if we're trying to go to where our highest potential is, and kind of like for the entrepreneurs that you coach, but to really block out the cynicism, block out like the critics. So that's very, very important. I loved Perennial Seller by Ryan Holiday, The Art of Making and Marketing Work That Lasts. So I love what he talks about creating a perennial seller. I'd say Like a Virgin, Richard Branson. I'd say the Steve Jobs biography by Walter Isaacson. I'd say, I'd say those are, I think those are core 5.
I've actually just, I'm busy with Nelson Mandela's autobiography.
Oh.
It's quite a thick one, and it's like, I think it's probably the same size than Steve Jobs. And just last week I actually got on a second-hand bookshop. Actually got Steve Jobs autobiography as well. So,
How's
what's that?
How's the Nelson Mandela one?
It's very good. I must say, especially from South Africans, that, I mean, you grew up in all kinds of, I mean, the apartheid era and all kinds of stuff. So it's quite interesting and heartfelt to actually read his life story and how he grew up and all the struggles he had. So yeah, I really enjoy reading his book. So yeah, it's a very good current trait of mine.
Well, depending on the stage, but rich dad poor dad is if you're a entrepreneur and you want to get into entrepreneurship and the way of thinking, that's really fantastic. Secondly, I like supporting South African books, but there's a book, Sweat, Scale and Sell, which is a book about the end game of a business, and every business only has two ways it can end. It's by selling it or closing it. So starting with the end in mind, which is a fantastic book. And then thirdly, I've got to now think about, I would definitely start with why. Going into the core of the business and why you're doing what you're doing and how does that align with, that speaking about brand of Simon Sinek. Those are 3 books that I would say is different areas, different stages, fantastic books.
5 books you read in 2019 that you would suggest anybody need to read?
I wrote the list down, so they should come up quite top of mind. So the number 1 book that I can recommend everybody to read is The 5 a.m. Club. That was definitely the most needle-moving book that I read. So we've talked about it extensively, so I won't go too far into it. And please don't let the 5 a.m. words scare you off. There are a lot of principles in there. Just take from it early rising. Do I recommend 5? Yes. You do 4, and I'm trying to, now that's my new bar. Some other books that, the 5 books that I read last year, I guess the next one that comes to mind would be, I think his name was Gary John Bishop. And I won't say the title because but it's Un-F Yourself. It's the idea.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So it was 7 mindsets. So, one of them would be expect nothing, accept everything. That's just so anyway, he's got a few, and that really, really helped me. There was 7 that when I ran my marathon and last year for the first time ever, and I was about halfway through, and I'd never run any more than like 15 kilometers before, and I was screaming out all of his affirmations just to get me there. The next 2, I'm a big believer of autobiographies and autobiographies. Actually, I'll say 3. Steve Jobs is a book that I highly recommend to kind of see what genius, for both better and for worse, what it can bring, what somebody at mastery. Powerful book. The next book that I would say under biographies is an autobiography, and this is the best book ever. It's Losing My Virginity by Sir Richard Branson, and these are autobiographies. I cannot recommend this book enough. He was a lifelong journaler, so he was able to like very detailed give you like you feel like you're in that hot air balloon, or you feel like you're in that negotiation with Janet Jackson when he's 20 years old, right? So really, really powerful book. The last book I was going to mention is Call Me Ted. Call Me Ted, Ted Turner. I really enjoyed that book as well. It was again, it's reading. It was an autobiography, not as well written as Sir Richard Branson's, not necessarily as entertaining, but to grasp the sheer energy that this guy had, at times was inspiring, and at times was a bit like, oh gosh, I guess I'm not playing at the level that some other these men and women are playing at. But yeah, those would be. I tend to be a nonfiction, business oriented reader, so those would be my recommendation.
I read a lot of fiction. I don't watch any television, so it's like I also like the leadership, educational kind of books. I just want to run through mine. I was actually writing down while you were talking. And obviously 5 AM Club was also a game changer for me. I read it, and I intend to read it this year again. Even though I think most of the concepts I really know and understand, it's always good to revisit an old book like that. And a lot of time you are ready for new things to read in that book that you wasn't able to grasp the first time. Because you, like you mentioned earlier in this podcast, you were not open at that stage for something specific. So 5 AM Club and Leader Without a Title is definitely another book that I recommend any person, any business leader need to read. Then another book, I can't pronounce the author. It's the Book of Flow.
Mihai Chetnikoff? Yeah, I don't know how to say his last name either.
Mihai, that's a long name, long surname, but it's a very interesting book, and especially I've been a martial arts instructor for about 5 years, and I just recently resigned as being a martial arts instructor. But that book really spoke to me about being a martial arts instructor and empowering your martial arts students is very similar to empowering your employees and in your business. By, if you're having a line like this, keeping them just out of the comfort zone and just a bit out of the comfort zone and just above the comfort zone, and keeping them there in kind of state of flow on a constant basis, on a daily basis, keep them growing. So and it speaks into martial arts, and it speaks into being a business owner as well, by growing your people. And I mean, if you look at us today, we've been in a state of flow, I think, in being a podcast for almost, I think it's about 2 hours right now. So
yeah, I literally just checked to find out what time it was, and I was like, oh, 2 hours. Okay, that sounds about right.
It didn't felt like that. So
No, not at all.
one of the other books, The Power of the Subconscious Mind, is something I actually read and reread. That's from Joseph Murphy. It's going very deep into affirmations, vibration of energy, seeding of your visualization of your affirmations.
Okay.
Big ideas into that, and how we actually influence our subconscious mind and what we portray to the world and creating results. And Mind Power is exactly the same book as John Keogh, a South African that Robin Banks is actually going on tour with a book by Mind Power. And then the last book is very much into soul work, and I got that from my wife, is Entering the Castle by Caroline Mays. That's a extremely deep book. I think you only get it on audiobook, but extremely deep book of exploring your soul. So
Wow.
somebody that actually want to look into the soul, very good.
Jasper, my friend, I wanted to let you know that I read your ebook. It's fantastic. Like, almost my first thoughts, you give too much value. It's really good. Your blue belt mentality, the kind of your play off the white belt, I really thought that was good. Kind of connecting it to a message that you're more familiar with in your type of martial arts, and connecting with the entrepreneurs. He kind of talks about creating space a little bit. There was I had my whole list in my head of the things I wanted to talk. Obviously, touch on a few Robin things that I'm always a big fan of. The very last video, the Trello, I started. I've got some things to do. I want to watch that video of your employee, or is he a relative? I noticed. Anyway, I want to work on Trello quite a bit, and so I'm excited to watch that. I was about to watch it, but I kind of have my evening plans, so I almost dove into that. Thanks for the link. I saw that. Thank you very much. Appreciate the shout out. No, but what we're saying, I really liked your financial tips. The 5 there. Can't grow debt and wealth at the same time, and a few other things there that I thought were about growing organically versus raising capital. I thought that was a great point. There was quite a few things in there that I was like, okay, so I just want to let you know, man, you're on the right path. Your video transitions and all that stuff, it's all really coming along, man. Really pretty impressed. So keep at it. I really quite literally, this Trello thing, I got to carve out an hour to watch this, take notes, and I might have a list of, maybe you can connect me with Darren, I think. I'm going to watch and make a bunch of questions. So anyway, you're providing value. You're providing service, man. Keep at it.
I love reading. So I do that if there's no meetings and stuff, and I get into a book and I start reading, and especially like books that motivates me and that'll allow me to do what I do, on a daily basis.
If I can ask you, that's actually a question I wanted to ask a bit later, but any books that you can advise them to book that really served you well?
Man, Joyce Meyer's Don't Give Up. It's a book that I read every single time, over and over, because it's just doesn't matter if I read it last year or now, it still applies to my life. My mom gave me that book in 2010, and I still make time to read it every year. So that's a book that I read.
Thank you very much.
What really comes to mind is Mind Power in the 21st century. And that had a huge impact in my life, and I had to learn to control my thoughts and how I can have the law of attraction. How can I have what I really want in life by just changing my thoughts, and from my thoughts, my talk, my habits, and I'm a magnet. So I think it's John Kehoe or Kehoe or whatever, Mindset in the 21st Century. And that's what I think of. Another book that I could really recommend now is that I'm reading actually at the moment, especially for entrepreneurs in this day and age of social media, is Instagram Secrets. I can't remember
I saw you reading that, yeah.
So I'm reading that, and it's amazing that actually you can make money from Instagram. not just posting your post there. And this, they say business is a science, sales is a science. And once you master the principles, doesn't matter what business you are in, everything has got principles. And if you follow these principles and these rules, you're going to have the success what a lot of other successful people have in life. And this book is definitely one of those things. Another book is called, that helped me a lot with my sales. It's called The Little Red Book of Sales. I can't remember the writer as well, but people can just go and Google it. The Little Red Book of Sales. And the author speaks our language as we talk. You know, that's how he speaks, and that's how I could resonate to that. Little Red Book of Sales.
Awesome. I'm almost scared to ask you. I already had my jump session, so I don't want. No, don't scare me. I should be scared of that. Two shots dan leek op my. Yeah. Any two books that you would suggest startup entrepreneur to read? I would obviously say Sales Dogs, and I always say that Blessinger should actually pay me royalties because I'm always promoting his book. One of the best books you'll read out there is Sales Dogs, Know Your Breed. And then obviously the other book you need to read is Mama, I Sold You, because it's my book. If I need to ask you any two books that the entrepreneur need to read, what comes to mind?
Okay, now I knew this question was coming, and I could have lied to you now, and I could have said to you, you have to read these two books. And there are no two books that I have read that I feel an entrepreneur must read. And I'm glad you asked the question, because reading is a passion of mine. I devour books, and I have read some books, but after about 4 or 5 pages, I get a bit lost when I don't agree with the person trying. Inspirational videos like this, I hope it's inspirational to somebody, but they must be honest, and they must be face to face, and they must be person to person. I feel that when people write books, they can hide behind a storyline, or they can hide behind the jargon, and then when I want to ask a question, because that's part of my habit, I want to immediately, after the first 5 pages, I actually want to ask the author, why are you saying that? And because he doesn't give me the opportunity to do that, I would lose interest because I don't get the response, and I can't continue having this conversation because it's one-sided according to me. So I must be honest with you, there are no two books that I've read that are, I would say everybody out there should read, but reading, I would say everybody should do. It just releases the mind and takes the stress away.
You quickly mentioned a book there as well, and being this webinar is for startup entrepreneurs that want to start being an entrepreneur, being a property investor. Any books that you suggest, maybe 1 or 2 that really assisted you in the beginning of your path?
The book that had the greatest for me to kickstart in it, nothing to do with finances. I thought initially when I read the book, it was this book by Mandino, The Greatest Secret in the World. That had a massive impact in me, on my life. And then in '94 I read, but then I was already, let's call it successful. In '94 I read a book by Tony Robbins, Awakening the Giant Within. And that book literally resonated with me. I think it was in '94, or maybe it was in July, either '93 or '94. And that book had a massive impact on me. I do not believe in this book that he's doing at the moment, but from a mental preparedness, that's a great book. Another book that, if you're really into finances and investments, that I've enjoyed tremendously, and there's a lot of, especially if you know how to apply the wealth creator strategy, is to read a book about Warren Buffett. It's Snowball. It's an incredible deep insights into what he's doing and how he's thinking and why he's so successful. And by the way, he's applying the formula for riches is one of my books that I've written. And then on a spiritual side, a course in miracles. In fact, I've said to my wife, I'm going to do that again as soon as I'm finished with the stuff that I'm busy with at the moment. Those are basically books. Of course, I read like 3 hours a day. Or I try sometimes even more. But those are the books that had the biggest impact in my life.
As I was reading that book of Jasper's, he shares 30 truths in there, or 30 principles that he came across over the past. I don't know how long it took him to write the book, but each one of those truths that he shares over there is like a tidal pool in a storm, where if you take that certain truth and you just go and sit and reflect on it and see what of that you can apply in your business and in your life, I'll guarantee you that you will grow and that you will just find peace in the storm that you are in at the moment as well. So I really want to encourage you guys to go read the book. I know that there's that they're raising funds as well by the sale of the ebook. So I want to encourage you guys to get involved there. Jasper is a great guy, and what I love about the book is every single thing that he's talking about in that book, I can see that he implements that in his life as well. So yeah, support Jasper, enjoy the book. I really enjoyed the book, and yeah, we'll see you around.
Any books that you suggest? Maybe give us two examples of any books that startup entrepreneur need to read.
The book that I know a lot of people recommended to me, and I found it very difficult, and I mentioned this in my speech that I presented at the Talk to Sales Summit, was Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. And the reason I said it was a difficult read is because it's quite in-depth. It's quite philosophical, but it teaches one about the importance of believing in oneself's ability to acquire riches. And I think you need to be very, very clear about yourself and your ability to acquire riches. Many of us do not believe that we have the ability to become wealthy. And yes, I'm speaking about financial wealth. And I'm speaking about the stuff that we admire other people having and we long to have, and we have the exact same ability to have. That book changed my life. I read it every day, either in the morning or in the evening. I reread different excerpts of the book that I know means something to me in a different setting or situation. But get the book and read it, not just read it, study it. It details steps that you need to take to acquire riches in life. And I was the sort of person that really thought riches are for everybody else. Wealth is for entrepreneurs, CEOs, directors, politicians, and the class of people that I admired from afar. And it's not. It's for moms and dads. It's for everybody, because we all want to have a better life. We all want to give our children a lot more than we had. We all want to have amazing holidays and live a quality of life that we are proud of. There's nothing bad about it. So the book taught me a lot in terms of being a strong entrepreneur. It's changed the way I deal in my relationships with people and in my business. So it's made a huge impact on me. And the second book is Rhonda Byrne's The Secret. I read the book, I reread it, and then I bought the DVD. And I think the DVD did it for me because it has commentary from different people and their experience with the notion behind attracting into your life that what you believe. And for a very long time, I thought this was quite an interesting notion because I had seen it happen in my own life over the years, but didn't quite put a name to it. And when I learned that there really was a universal law called the law of attraction, and that we attract into our lives that which we believe, it started to manifest a whole lot of more amazing things in my own life that I want everybody else to experience as well. So yes, those two books I would highly recommend everybody reading.
Specific two books that you can really advise to a startup entrepreneur?
I think this morning actually I was going through the book again because there's so many golden nuggets in it. And so the one book I was going through it now again is Legicide by Richard Mulholland. And the other one is that pink book behind me is Be More Pirate. It's really changing my perspective on business and on the way of doing things in life as well.
You know, I can't think of any particular titles, but certainly books that I found most useful are the biographies. When you're either dealing with a particular individual or a particular company, The Body Shop is one that comes to mind, Anita Roddick, and just how some of the difficult situations that she found herself in actually created the company that she ended up developing. Yeah. And an example of that was there was the space that she managed to rent was relatively cheap simply because of the mold that was on the walls. And the only color paint that could disguise the mold was a kind of green and brown combination, and that eventually became the corporate colors of the Body Shop. So in some respects, you can read a book that gives you the 10 points of how to do X, Y, and Z, and you might remember it, you might not. But when you read how somebody else went through the process, certain things begin to resonate slightly differently than a 10-point checklist. And I think that those are the most useful for an entrepreneur. I must caution people, though, in that often the books about entrepreneurs achieving success are the outliers. One of the things, for example, is that entrepreneurs, one of the contributors to failure is that they're not comfortable with the language of business, which is finance, and how to understand, reading income statements and balance sheets. And you will have certain entrepreneurs being celebrated for being naive of finances, and Richard Branson is one of those. And everybody says, well, you see, Richard Branson is successful and he didn't understand how all of those things work. Well, there are many other Richard Bransons out there that we don't know about because they didn't achieve the success. He is an outlier. I'm not to say he doesn't have the skill. Of course he does. But don't fall into the trap of thinking that what worked for one particular entrepreneur is necessarily going to work for you. You can get inspiration from some of the things that they talk about, but generally you still have to do the basics. You still have to get the basics right. You have to have control. You have to have a financial control budget, various things that you would tell a client. You still need to go through that process and do that, but certainly gain the inspiration from how, which is more often the case, entrepreneurs were able to turn adversity into a plus for their particular business or their particular brand.
Yeah, in discipline. So, I mean, like you say, the first 2, maybe 3 years are very difficult. And if you just keep consistently, keep on your good habits and doing your daily job that you need to do,
yes,
and focus on what you need to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, you tend to, if you can do that past that 2-3 years mark, then
absolutely,
you normally are there. Any books that served you well?
Sure. The biggest one I think that has impacted my business is called The Purple Cow. It's a marketing book by Seth Godin. And that completely changed the way I approach clients or even view clients and market my business, because in that book, I mean, most marketing books tell you to just stand out and be different, but this book goes a little further into the reality of life. I know Seth Godin once approached a whole bunch of businessmen around a table in a hotel reading some fancy financial newspaper, and he said, just close the newspaper quickly. Can you guys tell me any of the adverts that were in that magazine? And they're like, can't remember a single one. And he's like, exactly. So like, you got the money to put adverts in here, but you can't remember them. So he's like, that's terrible marketing. It's good advertising, but mad marketing. So the book like sort of gives you tips and tricks. So if I could recommend even just one book for startup entrepreneurs, The Purple Cow by Seth Godin would be a winner.
Awesome. I've never heard of it, so it's a very good...
It's an amazing book.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for the recommendation. Now, I suppose you're a very high-tech guy. Business-wise, do you have any apps that you use? Most guys prefer these days to take apps off their phone.
Yes.
But obviously apps are still there to assist us in a sort of a way.
Hi Jasper, I just finished reading your ebook and I have to say I'm really impressed. It's a good piece of advice, a very good book. It's a quick read, to the point, very topical, very visionary, and something that will add value to a lot of people's lives. So I have to congratulate you, I have to thank you for sharing. Thank you for making the world a better place. And I really hope that there will be a lot more books like this. And I can recommend anyone out there, if you are doubting, if you're not really sure if it's going to be worth it, this will definitely be worth every cent you spend on it. So go out and get it as soon as possible.
We generally or regularly share some ideas of books that you read. Just one or two that really impressed you in the last 6 to 12 months.
Yeah, I think last year I read a book with the name of The 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. And I remember my wife looked at me with big eyes when I picked up this book, because she was thinking, how on earth are you only going to work 4 hours a week? And I actually, if you go look at my car, I actually have the book in my car door. So every now and then when I've got a spare 10 minutes or 15 minutes, I've actually got a lot of stickers inside that book, so I go and review some of those principles. It's not about working only for 4 hours a week, but just the practical things that this guy gives about how to be more productive in your business. That thing is worth its money in gold. I think that I'm a very firm believer in that book. And then last year, towards the end of last year, I read a book from a guy called Steve Artsell. And this guy wrote a book with the name of The 5-Hour Workday, where this guy had a surfing company in America, and they were battling. They weren't making ends meet. And when they went through a quiet period, I think it was through a winter time, they shortened their workdays down to a 5-hour workday. And just how the difference that made in his business. And we actually ended up being one of the top 100 fastest growing companies in America. So just this guy's whole testimony about how the 5-hour workday actually transformed his business. I think for us, people that work with our minds, I think computers has changed the whole way that we do business. And I think this is the way that, or what this guy talks about, that we can't concentrate for 8 hours non-stop. All of us, if you concentrate, if you're lucky if you get 5 hours worth of productive work. As soon as you start going past that, you start planning your next holiday and start thinking what you're going to do lunchtime and those type of things, and you're actually not productive.
2 books is not enough. You can never read enough up. There's a vast amount of information available on the mistakes that other people has made. And I've heard that a fool learns from his own mistakes, and a wise man learns from other people's mistakes. So 2 of the writers and entrepreneurs that has had the biggest influence in my life is Richard Branson and Warren Buffett, for very different reasons. Richard Branson is a daring, challenging guy, he has written 2 books, Losing My Virginity and Finding My Virginity, that is explaining a lot of his way of doing business, and as a package they are very valuable. And then Warren Buffett, I can't remember the title of his book, but he's written a book on how he reflects on compounding interest and his recipe to be this absolute gentleman but have a huge successful business.
3 books that really inspired you. It doesn't have to be a recent book, it can be any book that you've read over your lifetime, especially for entrepreneurs.
One thing, the book which really helped me out of the pit when I was still not doing this business, and I felt very sorry for myself and thinking I'd have had a lot in life, but this book by Ogmandino, the greatest salesman in the world, that really pulled me up. And I saw in my network marketing business that the people were using that very same book, so I can really recommend that, to do that, to get you on the right track and change your mindset to the good and for a good life, actually.
Any other books for entrepreneurs that you might suggest?
There is one which goes Go Pro by Eric Worre. That's a how-to. That's a very good book. And then, of course, by Max Schwartz, or what is it? Not Max Schwartz. The Magic of Thinking Big. That is also a very good one, because we've got to change our mindset and think of the positive. I'm a very strong believer of looking at the glass half full and not half empty.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just quickly, I know you're also a big reader like me, but I know there's a few that newsletters and books that you would really. I'm looking forward to just sharing us with some of the books, and especially for entrepreneurs, and also maybe a newsletter or 2 that you really enjoy.
In terms of newsletters, I actually only sign up to 2 because I don't get as much time to read as I'd like, and I like, if I sign up to something I want to read it, and not staying ahead is just another pressure, and also I try and keep that in a manageable space. So the 2 newsletters that I sign up for or have signed up for are Barking Up the Wrong Tree by Eric Barker, who has a book by the same name, which is probably, in terms of advice for entrepreneurs or self-development, I think it's the best book I've read thus far. On a broad scale, there's better books on specific subjects, but in terms of holistically and also in the way that the message is communicated, that's at this point in time, that is the best book. Barking Up the Wrong Tree by Eric Barker.
Hi Jasper, thank you so much for sharing your ebook with me before the launch. I enjoyed it so much. I think it's a great reflection of you, feet on the ground, a lot of practical knowledge, but then also some of the inner work that you often speak of on your social media posts and such. So I really enjoyed it. I need some more time to dig into it and process everything, but definitely a lot of value. Thank you so much, and I'm sure everybody who buys it is going to ask for more at the end of it. So yeah, well done.
You mentioned the Monk Saltage Ferrari. I know you wasn't too impressed with that.
Yeah.
And but give us like 2 or 3 books that really change your life.
Okay. Yeah, I think just firstly, the Billionaires Book Club is just a WhatsApp group that I started. I really believe in the concept called masterminding. So for me, it's there's a couple of young dynamic guys on the group, and I discuss positive, uplifting ideas, books, stuff like that. I mean, you're not old, you're the oldest guy on the group. I'm not saying that you're old, but yeah, we all see some books in different ways. I think for me personally, if there's I always said, if there's one, if someone comes to me, there's 3 books that I would recommend to a startup entrepreneur that wants to go into business. The first one would be Richard Branston's easy read, Screw It, Let's Do It. Yes. I think for someone that's not used to reading, getting into reading, and also looking into entrepreneurship, I think that book, it tells where he comes from, a bad background, where he used to do drugs and stuff like that, and how he transformed his life to be this amazing entrepreneur that we know Richard Branson can be. So it gives you that self-confidence, that self-belief, as it doesn't matter where you come from or where you've been, that you also can go out and make a success. There's no pre-description to what you should fit into if you want to make a success.
Yeah, sorry, and also nothing in the business will ever be perfect.
Yes.
So you need to take that leap. Now that's basically what the Screw It, Let's Do It principle is.
Yes.
Leap into it. Obviously, limit your risk, but leap into it and go take that risk.
Yes.
Otherwise, you will never know. Nothing will be perfect before you can take that step.
Exactly. Yes,
Sorry,
exactly.
But I interrupted you. You can go.
No. It's fine, Jasper. And then the second book that's very important to me as an entrepreneur it's a book called The Go Giver. Now it's written by Bob Berg and David Mann, but it's a really simple story, but a very effective story about giving. And in entrepreneurship, I think so many people, they only want to make money, and they want to get, but they don't understand the principle of giving, and they don't understand exactly what you're doing with the videos here. I mean, you giving and you adding more value than you get paid for, and at the end of the day, actually, so people don't understand that principle. And The Go Giver is really a book. Very simple, very easy read. You can read it in about 4 hours, but the book is such a powerful story where in entrepreneurship you first have to sow before you can start reaping, and to keep on doing that in a bigger and bigger scale as your business progresses. So that would be the second book. And then the third book that I know you're not a big fan of, we just spoke about it, but I went and Googled, like on everyone's top 10 list, The Alchemist is a book that always came up, and I never really understood, like when people explained the book to me, I thought it's this weird story about this Arabian guy riding on his horse, and I can really say that book spoke to my soul. It spoke to my spirit. When I read it, I got so many revelations about. I read it long after I started my entrepreneurial journey, but that would be an awesome book for a guy that's getting into reading, getting into business. It's a story about a guy that's chasing his dreams and how things work together, and you don't always you might be working in a job, or you might be working for a boss at the moment, and you might not understand why you're doing some stuff, but that all adds up to the bigger picture and the bigger dream and where you're moving towards. And that was a really, really inspiring book for me. So yeah, those 3 books I would recommend. Easy reads. If you're getting into reading, if you're starting your entrepreneurial journey, that would inspire you a lot to move you forward.
Leadership is very important in my life, so I read as much as possible. One of the books that challenged me a few years ago is the most important one. One of the most important ones. Start with your why. It's one of my personality traits which needs a lot of growing. I need to constantly remind me why I'm doing what I'm doing. So I need to remind myself of that, and this book helped me with that. So I've got my why now, and that gives, if your why is clear, it's so much easier to work really hard towards your goal. A book my dad passed away 4 years ago, and one of the last books he gave me was The Greatest Salesman in the World, and it's something he recommended. And I've been reading this book for a long time. I actually had a few already, and I love sharing it with friends as well, because we've got a very good example of the greatest salesman in the world. So I recommend you reading that book. Lately, my friend Dryk, he's doing really well with this book. I started reading it about a year ago, and I've revisited it a couple of times. It's a quick read. It's very important to constantly renew your mind when you're an entrepreneur, because I tend to lose heart at times and get negative. And it's very important to surround yourself with friends and like-minded people. And I found in this book I can just quickly read a chapter or 2, and then it's almost like I'm in a positive mindset again. And then very important challenge, 4-Hour Work Week by Timothy Ferriss. I've got it as an audiobook as well, so when I drive I tend to go back to this book. Not really about, to me it's not really about only working for 4 hours, it's more about working more productively and more focused. I like work, and I love being actively involved in changing people's lives. I can't see myself only doing that for 4 hours a week, but to streamline and to simplify and to get to the bottom line of what you're really busy with. So yeah, these are just a few of my books.